Good morning, everybody. My name's Phil Rist. I'm with the Girringun Aboriginal Corporation. Beside me is Christopher Marita. He's a CEO and one of the ranger coordinators within the organisation. I think what I've really witnessed over the last few days is a lot of stuff happening in this space, a hell of a lot of stuff happening. And it's good to come together and have a yarn about what's happening in that space and share ideas, but also look at ways we can really further collaborate with each other, you know, and support what we're doing in a much more coordinated approach, I think. And what we're going to talk about now, I'm going to talk a little bit about our TUMRA, then we're going to go into talk about. Chris is going to talk about the joint arrangement between us around seagrass bed monitoring and dugong management as well. This is this little machine here. So just going to talk a little bit about the TUMRA first, and you heard from Bob yesterday. They've got a TUMRA down the south there as well. And it was one of the early instruments of engagement with traditional owners around turtle and dugong hunting in the GBR. And we were the first TUMRA along the east coast here. Ours are now nearly 15, 20 years old, something like that. So we've been around for a while with this TUMRA. And it's an agreement between 6 of our groups. Stands for Traditional Use of Marine Resources Agreement, and predominantly it's an agreement between 6 of the Girringun 9 groups, saltwater groups, about how they, how many turtle and dugong they want to take. This is directly from the traditional owners themselves. Where they want to take them from, how many they're going to take, and so forth. And then that agreement is endorsed by the authorities, the Great Barrier Reef Park Authority, representing the Commonwealth, and the state through Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service. But what's really important to note is that this is an initiative by traditional owners themselves in the driver's seat, making their own decisions about taking turtle and dugong, and then supported by agencies and others and partners as well. There's the 6 groups there you can see. It's administered through the office there. We've got a TUMRA coordinator that's there, and he should be up here today talking. But she's sick, unfortunately, so me and Chris are chucked in the deep end here, so to speak, and hopefully we'll do it justice. So when we talk about the take areas and that, and the other key parts of the TUMRA, the traditional owners decide through their knowledge and their own knowledge, as well as the Western knowledge, where their hunting areas are, based on the historical stuff as well, and cultural decision-making mechanisms. They decide where the hunting areas are. They decide how many they take from that area and who takes them. And so a request to hunt comes to the office, and then the person there in the office, the coordinator, then coordinates with the traditional owners, and a decision is made whether that authority has been given or not. And then we let the agencies know that Girringun has just issued an authority to hunt in our sea country, and then those agencies then know that that process has happened. And if they see somebody out there, they can go up and say hello and ask for the authority, and show them the authority, and then they leave them alone, so they can get on with their business. This is our area. It's a pretty big area, one of the biggest. It's also an IPA Indigenous protected area, one of the biggest marine park IPAs in Queensland, and with it being an Indigenous protected area comes some additional protection and our resources to manage it in partnership with our agency partners. But it's a fairly big area, and you can see the 6 groups and their countries there where they operate. The other thing that this really tells us is the leadership within those 6 groups. Some TUMRAs are only just for one group, or even one clan in some cases. This is one group, one TUMRA for 6 groups, and those 6 groups have really showed some really strong leadership in that, and they've come together to decide where their sea country is within themselves, and you'll see no internal boundaries there, but also their neighbours as well. But the really important part about this is the leadership shown by traditional owners, that they can make decisions and decide where what they want to do and so forth. I might hand down to Chris. You're going to talk about the
Good morning, everyone. As Phil said, my name's Chris Marita. So I'm one of the acting ranger coordinators, acting EOs with Girringun, but I'm also one of the ranger coordinators within Girringun as well. So doing joint roles within our corporation. But yeah, I'll just talk a bit about the special projects that we have in place there. So we've got a seagrass and dugong monitoring project that we'll be doing for 2 years. So funded through the GBRF, through the Traditional Owner Healing Country grant. Really thank you to the GBRF for that funding. So with this project, as I said, it's going to be over 2 years. A lot of the first on the ground stuff was done with our traditional owners. So a lot of the planning on ground meetings and just identifying where some of the monitoring is going to happen within our area. As we know, in 2011, Cyclone Yasi really hit our area and damaged a lot of our seagrass and a lot of our mangroves as well, which in effect had affected, the eating areas of our turtle, dugongs. So this monitoring project, as I said, it's in collaboration with JC Tropwater, Charles Darwin University, and with our rangers and traditional owners as well. So we do have 2 casual rangers, and we've got 2 skill-based rangers that are involved with the project as well. So with this project, previously with the monitoring, a lot of it was done with boat-based, so just in the boat, visually, which didn't work in a lot of cases. So what we have done now is we're doing drone surveys. So we've got 2 drones that we actually put up in the air, so probably about 90 metres high, and they fly for about 20-25 minutes. So it gives us a whole lot more scope and area to cover, and some of the images are way better than what we could do with just the camera with the boat. So our rangers are getting trained up with drone operations, doing the data stuff as well. So there's that 2-way learning in regards to getting our knowledge about what's happening out in sea country, but also that knowledge about interpreting all that data that is received from, from those recordings. So, what's happening in those images, the size of the dugongs or the dolphins, with also the seagrass as well. A lot of that is being done in conjunction with our rangers and our traditional owners. So a lot of that information is, at least we've got it within Girringun. So healing and restoring Girringun TUMRA region. So Girringun is working to address identified knowledge gaps around seagrass and dugongs that are core to traditional owners, cultural identity and traditional values and customs. Working alongside elders, traditional owner representatives, Our rangers are being upskilled with the strong partnership developed with Jesse Tropwater, Charles Darwin University, while instilling strong cultural values and undertaking with knowledge being shared by elders. So as I said, it's a two-way process that it has to be shared and it has to happen. So just some of the stuff that the monitoring equipment, underwater cameras, as I said, drones. We've got our own 8-metre vessel that we take out on water. We're talking about weights, frames, a lot of that equipment that some of the other ranger groups that are using, so nothing too different. Implementing the TUMRA agreement, so get Uncle Phil to talk a bit more about that.
Some of those earlier photos there you would have seen in the helicopter, one of our elders in there. First time she's ever been up in a helicopter and having a look around at her sea country, so she was a bit shaky. We were shaky as well, whether how this is going to end, but she thoroughly enjoyed herself, and she wasn't the only one that went up that day and had a look around. There was a number of other elders as well, but it was really good for them to see their sea country from a different aspect and a different perspective. Absolutely, utilising different tools and that, so it was really great. And to that extent, they've never been involved in looking after their country to that extent, utilising new technology and all the rest of it. So like Chris said, it is a two-way thing. One of the things I was hearing before through the previous presentations was how do we get better at that? How do we always strive to get better at that collaboration between traditional owners and traditional owner research for traditional owner purposes. And how do we develop a model or a methodology that does that well? I think that's something that we should really have a think about. One of the elders that's long gone now. And we heard it in the healing statement that Bob read out the other day. Is that connection between people, children, elders, and so forth is really missing in a lot of places. And this old fella said one day sitting down on Hinchinbrook Island, late afternoon, sun going down, he was sad. And I asked him, how are you feeling? He said, this country, this island is crying for its people. And in that area where we were, there's some really old fish traps, ancient fish traps, spanning many, many years. And in association with the fish traps there's middens, huge middens. And you can just imagine the activity in that place way back then, collecting oysters and shellfish and fish and whatever else is caught in those fish traps. And then sitting down eating. It equates to how we have our meals every night around in the dining room, and the laughter and the fellowship that goes on there. And that is an example of that relationship with country and people. And when one's separated from the other, then it's a real problem. So these sort of activities and projects help heal that, help bring that back together again. And what I was thinking earlier was how do we develop a traditional owner research for traditional owner purpose model, and how does that work? And when we go out on the country, like and it may be different in other places, but that real presence, that real contact, that real interaction between traditional owners and their country is so important. And how do we incorporate it into research methodology when they may not be interested in getting down to the bottom of the ocean and looking at corals and the rest of it and so forth, but they are interested in going out there and having that connection and that contact, speaking to the reef and so forth. Fishing as well. So you got this two-way opportunity to do research, scientists doing this sort of stuff, and maybe some of our mob doing that as well. But then elders and that, while they're out there going fishing, collecting shellfish, talking, laughing, and all this sort of stuff, you know. I think there's some room for us to have a conversation about how we do that better, and how do we, and you know, it comes back to resources and all the rest of it as well. But I think it warrants us to have a really good, long, hard look at that, and how we can do that, and along with our research. I spoke about the TUMRA there, I suppose, earlier. The system there, compliance, Girringun Rangers and TOs joint patrols with regulatory partners such as parks, grumper, fisheries, and our rangers do their own independence. So when an authority is issued for a hunt, then our guys are out there on the water as well. And that system, if you like, it's based on our law and custom, our decision-making process has been there for, like I said, 15 years now, I think it is. And in spite of the Native Title Act, which is a poor interpretation of blackfellow law, I think, which can be divisive in a lot of ways, this system has really stood the test of time. And because it was a process as well, a process of talking to the individual groups over a long period of time and saying, what do you want to do? Where do you want to hunt? How many do you want to take? Can other traditional owners come into the area and hunt, and all this sort of stuff? So it was a long process, and and it was based on our law and custom, and you know, elders and all this sort of thing. And it really has stood the test of time. We have not convicted any of our people under this system. They respect and they understand this system, and we have never had a breach of this system. Even though under the Native Title Act, I can go out tomorrow in my sea country and take, you know, 4 or 5 turtle or dugong. I'm not about to do that. It's going to be a test case. You know, one day maybe one of our ratbag fellas might go out and take turtle and dugong, but I'm sure we'll always come back to this system here. And that system there, when our people have decided what they can take and where they can take it from, I think, and I'm hopeful, will stand, you know, really stringent challenge from that Native Title Act and our system here. I'm getting a wind up here, so I think that's really the end of it. I think you can read the other stuff there, and I think you can see some of the stuff on our Facebook page or our website anyway. But I think that's the end of it. I think this is some of the photos of what we're going to talk about anyway.
Yeah, as I was saying, you know, the project has a two-way knowledge approach, so incorporating Indigenous knowledge and Western knowledge. Some of the points there are, you know, enhanced understanding of significant dugong populations that we have in our area and our seagrass habitats. Build research and monitoring skills, you know, not only for our rangers but also for our traditional owners as well that we engage. Communicate with traditional owners and the broader communities. With some of these monitoring, we do get volunteers as well, so that's non-Indigenous who are coming out on our vessel as well, and support them and strengthen the relationship to connect with country and work together to heal country. And planning and monitoring and activities to ensure ongoing connection, you know, to our sea country and understanding of our ecosystem health. So that photo up there is just some of our traditional owners and elders with our rangers doing some of that planning and you know, checking those sites where some of those monitoring can happen. And thank you.